What's up, guys? Josh Pate here from 24/7 Sports. You know the man next to me, Steve Wiltfong, National Director of Recruiting. It is time for the weekly Wiltfong Recruiting Whip Around. Steve, as usual, we waste no time. Let's head to Virginia Beach, Virginia. Five-star corner, Tony Grimes. We've got a top four. Let's talk about it. Where does he stand?
Well, Tony Grimes, let's talk about where he stands first and foremost. He's the number one ranked cornerback in the 24/7 Sports Composite player rankings, number 7 overall. And he narrowed his list to 4 schools. Brian Doan has the story on the 24/7 Sports Network. Georgia, North Carolina, Ohio State, and Texas A&M. And the 24/7 Sports crystal ball is a little split. North Carolina has some movement on there. Georgia has some movement on there, and I believe those are the top 2 teams in this recruitment. Another layer before I get into, is it going to be Georgia, is it going to be North Carolina? But talking to his dad over the weekend, his dad said, we have another prospect here, Josh, that has put himself in position to graduate here and enroll at a school in August if he chooses. And his father said if there's no Virginia high school football this year, that they're gone. They're out of here, and they're going to be at one of these schools. So right now, he has a decision date for December 1. I wouldn't be surprised if a decision came earlier under the current circumstances from the COVID-19, and we'll see what happens there. But North Carolina or Georgia, I think is where Tony Grimes is going to end up. And I understand why North Carolina may have some momentum right now between the relationship with Dre Bly, the momentum that the Tar Heels have on the trail, and the love that they have for Mac Brown and the direction of the program. They see a school in North Carolina that has everything that Tony is looking for in a program, from a chance to be developed by a great position coach and play for a program that's on the uptick like North Carolina. My crystal ball is personally with Georgia. He was going to visit Georgia a couple times this spring. He went prior to the shutdown, but it was important for him to get back and bring mom. And they were also going to be in the area for a 7-on-7 and swing by the Athens-based program as well. And so I thought, first of all, I thought the first visit to Georgia was tremendous, and with Kirby Smart and his defensive-minded pedigree, and them thinking that program's on the verge of breaking through and winning a national championship, I think that there's a lot that they like about Georgia as well, but they want to get back and get more familiar with it, and now who knows when he'll be able to do that. Decision date targeted for December 1st. Ohio State is another place that Tony's only been to once, so they want to get back and see the Buckeyes program another time and give them the same chance that they've given North Carolina. Texas A&M was really hot in this recruitment early. They had some changes on their defensive staff, but the love for the Aggies has them in the Final Four, and we'll see where it goes from here. But I think at the end of the day, you're probably going to see him playing for North Carolina or Georgia, unless something drastically were to change with another visit to Texas A&M or Ohio State.
Let's talk about the Southern Cal Trojans here, Steve. A far cry from what we were talking about on National Signing Day this past February. Clay Helton and company sit squarely in the top 10 right now, the 24/7 Sports team rankings, and they could end up with an even loftier ranking with a hot streak that could be about to crank up any second now.
Yeah, it's almost like a hurricane with what they have potentially on deck here in quarterback Miller Moss, one of the top-rated quarterbacks in the country, number 5 pro-style passer per the 24/7 Sports Composite, number 52 overall. USC didn't sign a quarterback in the 2020 recruiting cycle after losing Bryce Young, who flipped on them to Alabama. Now they have a chance to go out and land 2 of the nation's best. Jake Garcia committed shortly after Bryce Young announced his plans to play for Alabama. He's the number 4 pro-style passer, number 33 overall. And now I think it looks like Miller Moss is next man up to join the fold. Is he also considered Alabama, LSU, and UCLA down the stretch? USC is just the program he grew up and always saw himself playing for. And now that the opportunity is there to play for USC, he went through the process, built relationships with other programs, wanted to take a visit out to LSU. The COVID-19 pandemic didn't allow that. So it's time for him to make a college decision, and USC is where his heart's at. And he's ready to go in there and compete with Jake Garcia and push the likes of Keaton Slovis and whoever else is in the room by the time Miller Moss gets there. I think when he announces his college decision, the USC is where he'll go, and that'll be another big boost for a Trojans class that ranks number 6 nationally. That's number 1 in the Pac-12. This is where we're used to see them. They're annually recruiting top 10 classes, and that's where they stand right now. And I think they could get 2 more commits beyond Moss this week. Receiver Michael Jackson out of the state of Nevada says he will announce his college decision on Wednesday. USC is the heavy favorite going into that. And Lake McCree, a tight end out of Lake Travis in the state of Texas, is also a heavy trend to USC on the crystal ball. And when he announces his college decision, I expect that to be the Trojans as well. So USC sitting at number 6, they have a chance to move up to number 4, Josh, and they'll be closing real close on Tennessee for that number 4 spot as well.
One of my favorite position groups to follow every year outside of quarterback is the offensive line class, and who's going to haul the best offensive line class. So it's usually about the same half dozen programs we're talking about. How about the 2021 cycle, Steve? Who's in the running to land the top offensive line class?
Well, let's start with Georgia, who had a monster recruiting win over the weekend, and Dylan Fairchild. He's the number 2 offensive guard in the 24/7 Sports top 247 player rankings. They beat Auburn, they beat LSU, they beat Tennessee, they beat South Carolina, and they beat Penn State for the coveted in-state recruit, who's also was 47-0 in wrestling last year, winning another state championship. He's won 6 different state championships in his career as a wrestler. You turn on the film, you see the fantastic feet, you see the tenacity, you see the leverage at the point of attack. He's got tremendous upside, and that's a big recruiting win for Coach Smart and company. Coach Matt Luke kind of taking the baton from Sam Pittman, and he's off and running in his own way here with Georgia this cycle as Dylan Fairchild joins Micah Morris, another 24/7 Sports top 100 recruit at the position. Where does Georgia go from here? 5-star offensive tackle Marius Mims and a top 50 24/7 Sports composite offensive lineman Terrence Ferguson are both trending to Georgia on the 24/7 Sports crystal ball. So Georgia, they're certainly in the mix to sign the number 1 offensive line class. Right now, if I had to put money on someone, it would be Alabama. None of these guys are committed to Alabama just yet, but they have a chance to sign one of the more special offensive line classes I've ever seen. I've been at 24/7 Sports since we popped up on the web, Josh, so we're almost 10 years old, and so I haven't seen a potential offensive line class like this, but Alabama has a chance to get a Marius Mims. I know Georgia's a crystal ball favorite, but Alabama's right up there near the top of his list. They have a chance to get fellow 5-star offensive tackle Tommy Brockermeyer. They have a chance to get Tommy's twin brother James, the number 1 center in the 24/7 Sports player rankings, and they're right there near the top of the list for our number 1 offensive tackle in the top 247, J.C. Latham, who's in the discussion as the number 1 player overall, regardless of position. So Alabama goes out and lands those 4. That would be truly one of the more special offensive line classes in the country. Now let's circle back to the Brockermeyers, and we talked about James and Tommy on last week's show. But here on Monday, as we're recording right now, James has a big meeting today with the Alabama coaching staff. He's a 4.0 student and getting a degree. The degree is a big part of his decision as well. And he's meeting with some folks at Alabama with their honors business college, not their business college, but their honors business college to get a feel for where he stands there and how and what that program would be like for him. And I think that's a big meeting for him as he decides, as both Brockermeyer brothers decide between Texas, LSU, and Auburn. But I think Alabama and Texas are at the top for both of those young men. So I think this is a big meeting for James Brockermeyer today with the Alabama staff. But anytime you're talking about offensive line recruiting, who's going to have the best class, you can't forget about Wisconsin. The 2 jewels of their recruiting class right now are top 247 offensive tackles, J.P. Benzschawel, and Riley Mahlman, who we particularly love at 24/7 Sports. And my crystal ball is with Wisconsin for 5-star offensive tackle Nolan Rucci. He's also looking at Penn State. He's looking at Alabama as well. LSU, Notre Dame, Michigan, Clemson. There's a lot of schools in there for Nolan Rucci, but I have a mid-level confidence rating for Wisconsin for Nolan Rucci right now. And then Oregon. A lot of Oregon this week on the 24/7 Sports Network. He joins Brandon Marcello, part of our social distance series. He's on your show this week as well, Late Kick with Josh Pate. And we're going to talk about the Ducks right now. They have a chance to sign the #1 offensive line class in the country. They have 3 4-stars committed already with their top target at the position. Kingsley Suamataia still out there, another top 100 player. I love Oregon for him. So those are kind of the 4 schools that are in the mix for the #1 offensive line class. Maybe LSU sneaks in there if they can rally for some of these other guys. They land Tristan Lay. They can get the Brockermeyers perhaps. But those are the 4 schools I like the most for the #1 offensive line class.
Jam-packed, as always. Steve Wiltfong, you can catch updates all week long. He even works weekends, folks. Stay tuned, 247sports.com. Steve, pleasure as always, sir.